tonight Lady Lucy French OBE, the CEO of the Fleet Street Quarter bid. But firstly, please tell us how the bid has been fostering a sense of place through all the various activities for stakeholders since the pandemic.
Yeah, no, sure. So I don't know if you're familiar with the bid model. Not really. So we are a business improvement district, as Lucy said. We are voted in, we're elected by the business community. But the business community, anybody over a certain rateable value, it's done by rateable value and hereditament. And so we are an elected body. Once the election has happened, so we have 350 levy-paying businesses in our, 270 levy-paying businesses, 350 hereditaments in our 43 hectares of the western side. So we represent 43 hectares of the western side of the City of London. And so we were given a very strong mandate. So we don't just come in and say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It is absolutely the voice of the business community and the wider community that we really listen to shape our programming. And so we have 4 strategic themes: putting Fleet Street Quarter back on the map, creating connected communities, clean and green, which embraces absolutely what it says on the tin, but equally, very importantly, public realm and climate action, and safe and secure. And so I think one of the things that I feel incredibly privileged to take on the role of Chief Executive of this newly founded bid. It came to fruition in April 2022. We have a 5-year term. It's a place rich in history, so rich in history. If you walk down the lanes and courtyards and you're constantly aware of something new, a new moment of discovery, which is very, very special. So we set about delivering a programme of activities, and I'm going to make a skip to, so those are our themes. So this is something that we've done quite recently. So Fleet Street, it's a place where stories have always been born. For 2,000 years, stories have evolved from this place, particularly with the print media, but also Dr. Johnson, Samuel Pepys, everybody has had a role in this extraordinary place. So we've created the Fleet Street Quarter Festival of Words, a new literary festival for central London. It's something that a bid hadn't done before. So it was quite an exciting experiment, if you like, to see how that went in the centre of London, in Fleet Street. And so we used some of the historic buildings that are so connected to literature. So we had, we did talks at Dr. Johnson's house, Stationers' Hall, St Bride's Church, St Bride Foundation, and we saw about 1,700 attendees over 4 days, which was really fantastic. We had 40 events in 4 days, which was quite a lot, but it worked really, really well. In fact, we saw great success. So 92% of attendees would highly recommend the festival to a friend. 52% of attendees visited one or more local business, and 94% said they'd come back. So for a new festival, we're really pleased with the response. And this is something that we're looking to develop. So we'll be having our Fleet Street Quarter Festival of Words Mark II in May next year. So we're starting to put that programme together. But it's all about holding on to the fantastic history and heritage that we have. We've also just completed, so the Literary Festival was in May. In June, we had our second Fleet Street Quarter Climate Festival. So I think one of the key speakers at the festival was Mary Cray, the Minister from DEFRA, coming to talk to us. We had a very interesting panel on the London Mine, about sort of circular economy in terms of construction and the built environment. And I thought that was really interesting. In fact, I've got a lovely little quote that I might just share with you. We had, what was it? So Georgia Elliott Smith, said, what was it? The reuse of materials fell by 21% this year, and consumption accelerated globally. Globally, in the last 5 years, we have consumed nearly 30% of all the raw materials that humanity has consumed in the last 125 years, which I found quite a striking and startling statistic. And so it was very interesting to really bring developers and the built representatives of the built environment to that panel. We also looked at the rights of nature, whether sustainability was good for growth, and all of these things. So really trying to engage the business community here, the residential community here, but also bringing new people in, driving that footfall, creating a real destination, working very closely with our bid proposer, the City of London Corporation, on their destination city ambitions.
And that included urban mining.
Yes.
Would you like to explain?
So urban mining is the idea is material passporting, so logging every part of a new development so that it can be deconstructed like a piece of Lego and the materials repurposed. If it's not a new building, if it's a retrofit, again, logging what goes in and what comes out and finding alternative uses for those materials. So it's a really interesting and important part, I think, of construction moving forward as we really try to face the climate challenges.
And audience-wise, you're very cross-generational, because I remember a tremendous climate festival that the New West End Company staged a couple of years ago, being so acutely aware, each company and each employee, everyone's on their learning journey. Yes. To rely only on the outside media, that in terms of keeping up on all this information and the critical views of specialists, they're not going to be able to do it. So that's why your convening power is so strong for people wanting to educate themselves.
Well, and I think it's that sort of peer-to-peer learning, and you know, we've got some really big business. We've got Goldman Sachs, we've got Deloitte, we've got Bird and Bird within our footprint, who have great teams of people that are really looking at climate change and ESG and sustainability. But they can be fantastic mentors for some of the smaller businesses. You know, Lucy, you talked about the huge swathes of SMEs that simply don't have the infrastructure to really drive that change. And so it's bringing those parties together and getting that conversation happening.
Do you want to quickly explain how ESG and what it is and how that is one of the drivers of so many of the businesses?
Yeah, so ESG is sort of environmental, social governance, about how businesses respond to those three elements. There's been a lot of discussion, I think, recently since Donald Trump took office and has not been so keen. He's been actively encouraging American businesses to drop ESG and indeed their climate ambitions.
For architects to talk of efficiency rather than sustainability, which they have really really just hate that.
Yes. So I think
two very distinct things.
So I think it's been but what we're seeing here, I think, in the UK is people still having a real ambition. And I think for our climate festival sits within London Climate Action Week, and I think it was boom time for London Climate Action Week this year purely because of Donald Trump's intervention and London wanting to say, we're carrying on, we're going for it, we're not shying away from this. And in fact, I think there was more momentum. And so in a way, Donald Trump keeps doing his favours. He's bringing Europe closer together. He's encouraging more people to be talking about climate action and ESG. And but it's an ongoing challenge. And I think something that we as a bid really want to keep addressing and keep drilling down on and bringing those conversations together.
Yeah. And so the initiative, the Clean and Green initiative, you marshalled the active input of specific stakeholder figures. So I'm thinking of Mark Williams at Barings Bank, who then tell us what he managed to achieve for Fleet Street Quarter over the years.
Mark Williams is an incredible exemplar of sustainability. He was in charge of sustainability and ESG at Barings, just over the road here. And he implemented some extraordinary changes to their business. So they, everything is sustainable, from the gloves that cleaners wear, all of the cleaning products, all of the food is generally food that would have gone to landfill, perfectly fine, but but out of its date. You know, he brought in square mile farms, so hydroponic growing. which has really changed the dynamic there at their offices. Everything, they grow, they eat, and if they can't eat it all, they share it with those that need it more. So he's been really interesting, and he was very instrumental. We trialled an urban farm on Fleet Street about 2 years ago. It was a meanwhile space, empty, one of many empty retail units in the square mile, equally the city and equally globally. But so we really wanted to see if we could find innovative ways to use empty retail units. So we set up this urban farm with Square Mile Farms. And that's really how we got the conversation going with Mark Williams, because he too was using Square Mile Farms. And I think it was very interesting to see the community coming in at lunchtimes and learning how to harvest the crop, harvest and take it home and utilise it and make low carbon pesto and all of these things. But so a combination of that, the urban farm on Fleet Street and meeting Mark was really the catalyst for our urban farmer project, which we opened at the back end of last year, December last year, in Shoe Lane, just off Fleet Street. And so that's a land securities building about to be developed, another part of our 6 million square foot development pipeline. They gave us the building, and now we have a very active urban farm there, growing, but also teaching the community.
Great. So let's move on to the placemaking strategy. £9 million, is it?
So we've got just over 6 million square feet in our development pipeline at the moment. I think it's a GDV of over 5 billion. And I think the interesting thing about Fleet Street and the transformation of Fleet Street for me is it's not one developer. It's not like Argent at King's Cross. It's sort of 33 individual developers, all having chosen to invest very heavily and to develop in this quite a small geographic footprint. And I think that is really interesting. And the other thing that I think is interesting about it is the time frame. The majority of this work will be delivered in the next 5 years. So we talked about the workforce being just under 100,000. In the next 5 years, we're anticipating growth of 33,000 more office workers coming to that very small part of the city. So a lot of growth. I sort of talk about Fleet Street Quarter, the area, having been reinventing itself for 2,000 years, as much as the City of London. And we're at the sort of crest of a wave. We're going through a real renaissance at the moment, which I think it's very exciting. I mean, I can talk a little bit. We created a placemaking vision, a public realm vision.
So that was 2023.
Yes.
And you did a tender, and Gensler won it.
Yeah. So Gensler.
Tell us why you chose Gensler as distinct from any other.
So we went out to a competitive tender.
Yeah.
I think we shortlisted four proposals. Gensler teamed up with NRP to do on the traffic side.
Yeah.
They had a vision that was deliverable. It was sustainable. It was attractive. But I think the key thing for us was that we didn't want to commission a huge piece of work. It took almost a year to do this public realm vision. And we didn't want a beautiful document that sat on a shelf and we just, oh look, there's our public realm vision. It's great, isn't it? We wanted something that we could really see tangible results from quite rapidly. And I think Gensler really addressed that for us. And so we worked very, very closely with them for just about a year. We did a lot of public consultation on the vision. And at the end of the day, they came out with lots of proposals. I think the final document was 171 pages. They did do an executive summary, which is a lot more digestible for laymen. But they came up with 35 recommendations and 11 priority projects. And I'm really delighted that, so we launched that at the end of 2023, and we now are underway with 3 of the priority projects, which is really fantastic. I'm sorry, I'm rattling on. They are Fleet Street lanes and courtyards, the Holborn Viaduct, illuminating Holborn Viaduct. And the big one for us, a really exciting one for us, is the transformation of Fleet Street. So we've received, so the City of London have committed 9 million, and we've committed 1 million to the transformation of the public realm on Fleet Street. And that is a project that is underway. We've got 18 months of traffic modelling. so NRP again doing that with working very closely with the city and with TfL. So we will be doing some consultation this September, initial public consultation this September, and then much more next year.
So in order to make the area future-proofed, it's a cross-sector approach that's holistic. So you'll be dealing obviously with improving the relationship between pedestrians and vehicles. But when it comes to the courtyards and lanes, increasing safety or permeability as well, because courtyards and lanes, it is easy to get lost on the way to St Johnson's house.
Yes, I still do it sometimes, but I'm not really concentrating. I take the wrong lane.
So legibility and navigability of the whole quarter.
Yes,
obviously really important.
Absolutely. So Bradley Hull, Shunak are doing the lanes and courtyards. They're also doing the transformation of Fleet Street, and they're doing the landscape architecture for the Courts Leap. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, on Salisbury Square.
On Salisbury Square. So there will be a lovely cohesive vision for the public realm across Fleet Street, either side. And what we want to achieve, I mean, the lanes and courtyards, I think, are one of our assets, the joys of this part of London. But they can be a little bit intimidating if you don't know where they're heading to. They're not very well lit, they're not very green. And so looking to address those issues. So navigation, wayfinding, better improved lighting, and making them, increasing greening and making them just more pleasant places to walk down. We want to encourage people to step off Fleet Street and explore and discover a little bit more. In fact, I've probably got... so this is a very initial proposal, and I would emphasise that this hasn't gone to consultation, so I shouldn't probably be even showing you this. But so these are very initial ideas of what could be achieved. So more planting, places to sit, nice lighting, and so that's obviously that's Gough Square, just by the Cheshire Cheese. So there we are. And then for Holborn Viaduct, that's Holborn Viaduct kind of now. It can be a bit intimidating, certainly in the winter, walking through there. It's dark. It's late at night. It's not the place that you really want to be. But it's an asset. It's beautiful. It's a fantastic jewel in our crown, really. And so we want to. So we've been working with WSP to light it. So you'll see the facade lit, the interior with lighting. And then you can see the sort of, it's quite hard to see it, but we are going to get other pictures, but this is this sort of colour wash, which will move, it'll be moving, and it'll be replicating the idea of water and the River Fleet. So really trying to pull the wonderful history of the River Fleet into the contemporary narrative. So Royal London Asset Management are doing a big scheme just to this side of the viaduct, and their theme, they're doing quite a lot of decorative work on their facade, quite unusual, and that's very focused again on the River Fleet. So it should all tie in quite nicely. And there's more consultation on that happening later this year in
So
the
it's
autumn winter.
lifting that Victorian civil infrastructure up above the purely utilitarian,
Yes.
and therefore also at the same time embracing more human-centred
Yes.
public realm.
Yes,
for sure.
absolutely, and encourage people wanting to come and
Encourage.
congregate and meet. There are bars and restaurants sort of on either side, encouraging that footfall. I think we've got the
friendly atmosphere. as
yeah.
well.
I mean, the London Museum isn't in our footprint, but just on our boundary, and they're anticipating huge increase in footfall, over 1 million people a year. And we need to be really thinking about that as well, and making sure the gateways are really attractive. I think my next dream is for Ludgate Circus, to do something with Ludgate Circus, but that's a much bigger project.
Can you be drawn on precisely what you think, what formula? Will it involve artists or architects or a multidisciplinary team?
I mean, I think I don't know if you'd agree with me, but I always take my life in my hands every time I cross over Ludgate Circus. It is pretty scary. It's not balanced. It's different pavement heights. It's a bit of a mess. And I think one of the things that we've talked about is making it a more pleasant place to be, to spend time perhaps. I think what I'd love to see is a recreation of a traditional London circus. You'd never say, well, I'll meet you at Ludgate Circus. So I think that's one of the things that we really want to try to look at. It's a huge project. Obviously, it's a principal artery. It's a big major TfL road. But I think even TfL are aware that something needs to be done. I'd love to have a crossover crossing like Oxford Circus, where people don't absolutely take their lives in their hands trying to get that fantastic picture of St Paul's. They can do it in a more planned way.
So what is your view of where this is going to go, this reclamation of the civic realm in London? So we now know the mayor is obviously taking over as a development role the pedestrianisation of Oxford Street. In Holborn there's the Livable Neighbourhoods scheme that will reduce hugely improve the safety and the amenity of those particular vehicular routes and so on. Do you see London becoming far more pedestrianised in the next few years?
I think
this would be obviously something that the Mayor's Office, GLA, is really pushing for in any case, and TfL.
I think the GLA, London as a whole, the City of London all have net zero ambitions. And a big part of those net zero ambitions is to reduce vehicular traffic. So
air pollution reduction.
Reducing air pollution. The City of London have just done a major study on healthy streets. So I suspect it will start to become a more pedestrian-friendly London over the coming years. But I have to say, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think Oxford Street has been on the cards for 30 years. If I see it in my lifetime, I'll be quite,
The Mayor's got pretty hefty top-down powers, and New West End company, the bid there is really a mighty force. And I think we mentioned, didn't we, earlier, that the Strand pedestrianisation wouldn't have happened without the power, the input, proactive work of North Bank as well. So the role of the bids,
I think, yes,
as movers and shakers in this, is very important.
Talked about the convening power of bids, and I think that's absolutely right, and I agree. Strandals which wouldn't have happened without North Bank bid. And I think, yes, exactly, and Dee Coursey at New West End Company is a huge advocate, and driving so many of the narratives around, tax-free shopping, all of these things for Oxford Street. And we do need to do something about Oxford Street. It is a real problem. But let's watch this space and see what happens.
So these developers is it 31, did you say, or so?
Well,
Yeah,
if you, I mean, it's probably 29 within our actual footprint and 33
Okay.
just on our boundaries.
So they can guarantee when they come through their pipeline processes, they are facing a number of different challenges, that they will have a future-proofed, a wonderful public realm in which to be grounded, which is tremendous. So what types of particular challenges are they facing now that they weren't a few years ago? Because this will slow things down, won't it?
The developer.
The developers, yeah. Is it purely investment levels?
I think the developers have all been affected by the global economic challenges.
Yeah.
As have all sectors really. I think a lot have been very resilient and they carried on. We've seen a few, 2 or 3 developers being forced to down tools and to reconsider what they're up to, what they're going back to planning to get a bit more space, a bit more to make it a little bit more achievable and viable in the long term. That's something we're quite concerned about. Obviously, we want the aspirations of the developers to mirror the public realm, to mirror the Salisbury Square scheme that's coming forward from the City of London and Lee and Eric. So we're working quite hard, talking to developers who are who are on pause to see how we can meaningfully support them. But we are seeing those that are carrying on with the work. They're getting fantastic occupancy rates. And Denica has just completed their 75% full already. They completed just a couple of weeks ago. Philip Benison and the Daily Telegraph building, again, huge occupancy. So it's all looking actually really good. We've got State Street Bank that have taken the whole site on New Bridge Street, which is a really fantastic show of positivity for the City of London, for our economic growth and development. And I think all of these things are really driving further inward investment. There's still a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah. So you instituted a piece of work which encouraged developers, it's based on an empirical study, wasn't it? Encouraging developers to embark on creative meanwhile uses where it was possible in order to make good empty spaces and so on in the interim.
Yes, so we commissioned Future City to develop a cultural strategy for a very hyper-local cultural strategy for our footprint. And that was really trying to look at the fantastic historic cultural institutions that we have in the area, to really celebrate those, to bring those to the fore, but also pairing them with what the future might look like. And so it's all of these documents that I'm mentioning are on our website, they're publicly accessible, to look at how developers can take inspiration. Developers are charged with creating a cultural strategy of their own, and they tend not to be hugely cultural people. I'm sure lots are, but so on the whole, they need some guidance, and they need to know what might work best in this particular area they've chosen to invest in. And so this piece of work will hopefully help to inform them. But equally, we wanted to have a long-term vision for our cultural strategy in terms of the things that we look to implement with the business community over the coming years.
So let's focus a little bit on the logistics of ballots and the bids, because the ballot is the process whereby people or companies have the potential to vote you back in again or not. And the bids in recent years in London have always been voted back in with very high degrees of success. And you're coming up for your ballot again in 2027.
We are, yes. So our Our 5-year term will come to an end in very early 2027, so we'll be going to ballot in February that year. And so we're starting work on, we did a midterm survey of the community the back end of last year. We'll be doing a perception analysis probably in January next year, really gauging what the community, the business community want to see. And then we form a business plan, which sort of a delivery plan informed by the midterm survey, the perception analysis. We hold a lot of working groups and focus groups, and shape this. It's then signed off by the City of London, who are our bid proposer. So we work very, very closely with the city across all aspects of our work, and then we go to ballot. So at the moment it seems quite archaic, but it is still a postal ballot. So the businesses will be posted their ballot paper, and they then need to post it back. So it's quite hard, it's quite a hard task, reaching out to each business, getting to know the right person in each business, because it's actually such a fast moving environment. But yeah, so we will know, I think, by the 25th of February or something, whether we've been successful or not.
Yeah, so having observed how Central District Alliance bid, occupying their own territory from all the way from Bloomsbury all the way to Farringdon, underwent their bid, with Camden playing a key role. I find the whole process very sophisticated.
Yes.
You are periodically getting perception analysis done, reaching out, doing your surveys, and taking it on board.
Yeah.
If only central government could take a leaf out of this process, because it so often appears that central government is really not paying enough attention by any means to what people do.
Well, I think in a way, one of the sort of benefits of the bid model is that we are very much on the ground, ears wide open, listening to the needs of the community, and really shaping the work that we do. And the money that we spend, the money comes from the business community. And so we want to make sure that every penny is directed in the right way for those people.
Yeah, fantastic. So you have worked before in a bid as vice chair of the bid in Victoria, when you were instrumental in opening a whole new theatre. So tell us a little bit about that, because Victoria in many ways is a gateway, Fleet Street Quarter is a gateway. How did you manage to develop the conversation about place as a top priority there?
So Victoria, so I was very fortunate. I was able to be involved in opening a brand new theatre for London. It was the first newly built theatre complex in central London for 30 years on Palace Street about 15 years ago. And it was at the time when Landsec were doing the extraordinary transformation of Victoria. And as Lucy says, I always sort of see Victoria always saw it as a place that you went through rather than to. It's a gateway. And in many ways, Fleet Street could be similar. In a way, it's perhaps the gateway to the traditionally perceived city, and I always often think that starts at St Paul's, and the gateway to the West End. So I felt really privileged to be involved with the Victoria bid, and as a sort of board member, and then as vice chair during that transformation, and seeing how the local authority, Westminster City Council, Landsec, and the bid work together in a sort of tripartite way to really get the most out of that transformation. And so I've taken a lot of the learnings actually from my time in working with the Victoria bid to Fleet Street.
Tremendous. So in the final few minutes before we open up to your questions, we're going to look in more detail at this incredible charity that you founded 11 years ago, Never Such Innocence, which was founded in order to give young people across the UK and internationally the opportunity to reflect on conflict through poetry, art, speech writing and song. Please do tell us a bit about the agenda and what you've achieved in that time and what you're focusing on right now and
Sure,
going
okay.
forward.
So I founded Never Such Innocence. Never Such Innocence is from the Philip Larkin poem, 1914. I founded Never Such Innocence in 2014, initially to mark the centenary of the First World War. The particular reason for that, my great-grandfather led the British Expeditionary Force at the start of the First World War, so I felt a bit of a connection to it. And it was to give young people an opportunity to have a voice on a war conflict that continues to affect our world today. And I thought that centenary space could be very taken up with adults, historians, academics, all having a view. And so we worked very closely with government during that period, with the official sort of youth arm of the centenary of the Great War. And we thought we might get a few hundred entries. So we're encouraging children to respond through poetry, art, speech writing and songwriting. And we ended up, by 2018, the end of the centenary, we'd reached young people in 100% of England and 80% of Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and 47 countries around the world. So we got a huge international response, and we had a big finale at Buckingham Palace with 350 children, teachers and parents all coming from around the world, which was really wonderful, a very special occasion, whereupon they all said, this has been a really good way to talk about something very complex and difficult. Would you continue? So we did a year-long consultation, international consultation, and we ended up reframing the charity to look at to giving children and young people a voice on conflict, principally on armed conflict. And so we really focus on that now. And so over the last sort of 7-8 years, we have worked with children around the world. So we now have young people participating in our program in 139 countries globally. Putting pen to paper, we say all you need to have a voice to change the world is a pen and a piece of paper. And they write some extraordinary poetry, and they make some wonderful pictures, very inspiring speeches, and songs. And we take that work to world leaders. We take children to the Houses of Parliament. We did the Bundestag. We talk to the UN. We do all sorts of things to really amplify the voices of those children. And I think more than 1 in 6 children currently is affected by armed conflict right now in the world, which is a staggering figure. And those that aren't directly affected are seeing very visceral images of extreme violence through social media. And so all children need the opportunity to share their reflections and to show empathy as much as anything else for others that are suffering. So we have children in Ukraine, we have children in Gaza, we have children in theatres of war all over the world. We did an event we worked very closely with the Ministry of Defence, and we did a webinar with the Ministry of Defence just about 6 or 7 months into the war in Ukraine. And we had children, it was quite interesting, we were working with St Andrews University, and we had children from Ukraine joining, two 13-year-olds from Kyiv, and a Russian child from Russia. And my academic colleagues at St Andrews University went to an adult Ukrainian arts organisation and said, we're doing this panel with, it was with a general from Strategic Command at the Ministry of Defence, so quite a high-level webinar, and would you like to be involved? And they looked at the briefing note, the Ukrainian arts organisation, and saw Russian participation, like, how can you ask us to do this? We absolutely not. So we went to the Ukrainian children and we said, listen, have you and mum and dad read the briefing note here? And have you seen that there is going to be Russian participation? How do you feel? They said, we're at war with Russia. How are we going to end this thing unless we speak to each other? We have to be on this thing. And it was very interesting, actually, to see the dialogue between the children in Ukraine and the children in Russia, because actually they were, in many ways, suffering in a similar way. They were seeing their lives torn apart. And I think one of the things that we see so much is children tend not to have a filter. They tend to speak things, they sort of speak truth to power. they tend to have less bias, and so you get really raw truth, which I think the Ministry of Defence find is very interesting. And yet, you know, the UN Youth Peace and Security Resolution it's fantastic. It's really wonderful, but it's only you're only listened to if you're 18 to 24, and we very much believe that if you're 9, you have as valid a voice on war and on armed conflict. You know, particularly if you're living in it and you're seeing it, you know what it feels like. And so we work very hard with policymakers to bring the voices of children more to the fore. So we've got a big youth summit coming up in academic year 27-28. But we've also, I mean, on the architectural side, which I think is quite maybe interesting for you, so we've been working with Gensler architects. They were invited by the Zaporizhzhia region government to design bunker schools there. And so we have been working together. So we've been doing workshops with children in the Zaporizhzhia region, architects, urban planners, engineers, all on the same call, all talking about what this school might look like, what it might deliver, what it might be. The results are fantastic, and the results absolutely echo what the children are saying, because these are the children that hopefully, you know, they will be rebuilding their cities and their homes in years to come. So we've also got again another Gensler project. We've got children coming over from Svitlo this week who've been doing a project with us in Gensler. They're going to have a look at the Gensler offices and be awarded some certificates by us tomorrow evening, to really commend them and their architectural ambitions, because we want to inspire the next generation of architects and urban planners and engineers in those countries, in countries that have been destroyed, because they are the future. So that's something that we're working hard to do, and I wish increasingly that we were a defunct charity, because that would be a good thing, because it would mean that these young people didn't have to share, didn't have to talk about war, but they do, and we're in geopolitical tumult escalating daily. We need to do more and more.
Well, it's clearly playing a massively critical role. I had previously never come across such a USP for a charity, and 1 in 6 is just an immense percentage of children. We have no way of knowing whether that's going to reduce in the near future.
Well, yes, and the arts is a good way for young people to. We had a little.
As a major way of channeling their expression.
We had a little boy in Ukraine who sent us a whole raft of pictures that he'd drawn, and he sent a little note, and he said, "I'm pretty much living in a bunker, and my father's fighting, and because of my age, there is nothing I can do about this situation except to send you these pictures so you can tell the world how terrible this is." So one feels a huge sense of responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a fascinating conversation, all your incredible endeavours, and your crystal clear focus, very inspiring for absolutely everyone that encounters.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. No, that was fascinating insight. Focusing on Fleet Street itself, I'm thoroughly looking forward to seeing it transformed, but it strikes me that you're constrained by 2 major challenges. First of all, the arterial road, as you mentioned, and also relatively narrow pavements. Could you tell me how you plan to overcome those challenges, and also maybe a description of how Fleet Street might appear in, say, 3 to 5 years' time?
Yes, absolutely. So at the moment, we do have very narrow pavements. The aspiration, and this is very early days, as I said, we're still doing traffic modelling, but the aspiration would be to widen the pavement on both sides in parts, so sections. We've had quite a good test bed, because Salisbury Square has taken out part of a lane of traffic for quite a while, and it hasn't created any traffic chaos at all. My office is on Fleet Street, and I never seen it. So we've almost tested it to see. So it would be very similar to coming to having this sort of quite nice movement along Fleet Street. So widening pavements, 1.5 meters in places, 2 meters, so we can then look to have a little bit of seating, some greening. I probably do have. This is not what's going to happen, but this is a CGI of what could. There's an idea we're exploring. We're doing a couple of different options on the width of the pavements, the boldness of the traffic transformation. There's an idea that maybe we might look at excluding cars, but only keeping buses, taxis, and bikes. But it's very much down to the traffic modelling to see where we get to with that, and to public consultation. But the aspiration is to make it an urban jungle. We'll have trees, we'll have greening, we'll make it a pleasant place to dwell. We've got to find somewhere for those 33,000 extra people to walk. So definitely widening the pavements is one of the principal aspirations. And taking out the police security islands, which I think have been defunct for quite some time. So that will automatically create a little bit more space. And also looking at pollinators and air pollution, and looking really improving the general air quality, and a public realm to mirror the splendour of Salisbury Square.
I want to ask, how has your charity work with conflicts inspired your work in Fleet Street? That needs a lot of talks and, bringing all these different people together.
Yes, well, it's interesting because I hadn't, at the outset of working in Fleet Street Quarter, I hadn't really seen the two sort of coming together at all, really. But actually, they have, and this has been so wonderful. It's having these open narratives and talks. I was talking to Gensler and about my project about Never Such Innocence, and they said, "Oh, we're doing this work in Ukraine," and automatically these things seem to come together. We've just done a panel for the London Festival of Architecture on unheard voices of unheard voices in architecture. And so we had young people from Gaza, from Egypt, from Ukraine on a panel with the Norwegian Refugee Council. So I think there are parallels we can draw between cities and communities, because actually the aspirations at the end of the day are very similar. Again, we've been doing quite a lot with the Polish Cultural Institute that sits in the heart of the Fleet Street Quarter bid. They're obviously working very closely with Ukraine. They board Ukraine. So all of these things, we're closer. We're always closer than we think. Certainly in times of peril, we come together.
I mean, for me, there is something very common between these two things, and it didn't surprise me that you have such an amazing charity. It's like the work with contention and how you address contentious subjects, and you can bring people to agree something.
Yes.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, no, well, it's been interesting seeing it work, how it can work together. Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's that dialogue which is always so important.
Transcending challenges and boundaries.
No boundaries.
Yes.
No boundaries.
No
We
boundaries.
don't want any boundaries. Well, that's what I always say, and I always say we reach the stars, and actually everything is possible if you really.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the fact that there's clearly a real opportunity there with about 30 developers working in quite a short period of time to sort of pull together the Section 106 contributions and all that kind of thing to make sure that they're spent in a sort of holistic way around the whole area, because often they're just spent in a slightly random piecemeal kind of way. So I'm sure you're looking at that, but it just seems like a real opportunity.
Yes. No, we are talking very much to the city about how those Section 106 monies are spent within the footprint, so they're not used anywhere else. And I think quite a lot of the money that's come from developers to the city is going into the public realm, is being fed back into the public realm, and we're very strong advocates for that. And really assessing and making. So we do an economic baseline study each year, and we also do a deep dive into the Section 106 to see how much it is and where it's being used. So yeah, so keeping a keen eye on that and actually working with the city to best utilise it.
So the money obviously is paid directly to City of London Corporation as the local authority.
Yeah.
And do they weigh in with their own views as to how it should be spent, or do they give you a carte blanche to?
Well, no, I think the city,
Or is it a conversation?
no, I think it's a conversation. I mean, it's the
Conversation.
city's money, and it's the city's city. It's their vision that's the ultimate. But we are, I think the constant conversation and the narrative and that shared vision for the area is been really useful. And so we like to think that we are, in many ways, the foot soldiers. You know, we can hear what the community want and feed that back.
A similar question in a way, just I think you're in obviously a bid is a new democratic structure in a way, so you've got all of these voices of local businesses and what their aspirations are and what their thoughts are. I think you're in a very privileged position to sort of understand all of their needs in a way. And I'm just wondering, what are their big concerns? Is there any sort of themes that run through? Obviously, public realm and sort of improvements outside of their offices and buildings has been clearly one. Is there any other touchstones that you sort of see come across regularly?
I think people are worried about rough sleeping. They're worried about safety. I mean, obviously, lots of mobile phone thefts happening across the capital. I think they're worried about those things, and those are things that we can try to address and try to support. So we work very closely with Thames Reach. We've just had a business breakfast with a talk by Thames Reach. We do in-office safety training sessions. I think they want to see. I think it's quite interesting. I think in a post-pandemic world, officers that maybe encourage their workers to stay in the building, not naming any names, but that had a hairdresser, a restaurant, a doctor, a creche, everything inside, and recognising that actually people should go out, they should experience the public realm, they should experience events and activities happening in the area. So there's always an appetite for more events and activities, and so we try to meet those needs. But it's really interesting being able to hear what people are concerned about and what they want to see.
About the renewal, you were saying in 2027 there are ballots going to take place.
Yes.
Is it the current bid organisation that puts forward different ideas that's a ballot for the different ideas? Or is it different organisations who say, we've got this idea of what we're going to do, and then you're the incumbent, but is it possible that somebody else comes along as a competitor to try and get elected?
It is possible, but it's very unlikely. So I think what people are voting for principally is have a bid or don't have a bid, not for have this bid or that bid. So that's generally what people are voting for. They've either been happy with what we're delivering, or I mean, I think our year is going to be a difficult year because business rates, there's going to be fluctuation in business rates. People will be paying more. There's more pressure on the sort of on the economic purse. You know, people will be probably thinking a little bit more, but in many ways, we have a capped levy, so it's actually very minimal for any business in the grand scheme of things. So I'm hoping that will be the case. But yes, it's a bid or no bid.
So go back to what you were talking about, Victoria bid.
Yeah.
I followed that, and wasn't there another one next door to it, and the two bids have actually combined?
They did. So they were. So there is a sort of an overarching sort of mothership of a lot of the central London bids. I think there are 14, 15 in the portfolio at the moment, which is run by a group called Primera. So lots of the bids across the central activity zone are run by this centralised group. And they have joined forces. So London Heritage Quarter is one, and then CDA and Hatton Garden are sort of slightly joined. So there are ways that one can do that, but I think those are for bids that have a slightly smaller footprint. Well, I mean, we've got quite a big footprint, and in fact, the square mile is now all divvied up, if you like. So we've got 5 bids in existence across the square mile, with one partnership probably coming to fruition next year. So then that will be the square mile bursting at the rafters with bids. So I'd be delighted to do that. So Piers Nicholson here at the front has established Fleet Street Heritage, which is an extraordinary charitable organisation, which really Piers has put together information sheets about everything to do with Fleet Street, every newspaper, every building, every character. Yeah, I mean, it's really a fantastic history of the area, and we were really delighted to work with Piers to publish those pages into a book. Gosh, a couple of years ago now, wasn't it? Yeah. And you'll republish it. You're going into your second edition, which is brilliant. But Piers also was the man behind the sundial on Bouverie Street, which I don't know if you've been along Fleet Street. You can't miss it if you're walking along to the west, from the east to the west on Bouverie Street. It's a huge white wall with this wonderful sundial with names of the newspapers on it, which is fantastic and a real now it's sort of iconic part of Fleet Street history, I think, in its own right. And Piers has been working incredibly hard to have permanent panels talking about the history of the area, and has worked very, you're indefatigable, Piers, really persuading the powers that be at the city to grant planning, which we've now just got the planning. Which is brilliant. So it's been really a joy working with Piers over the last couple of years to support his incredible efforts to retain this tremendous history of Fleet Street. So do go and have a look at Piers's sundial. The panels that are just on I've forgotten now the name of the road where
at the moment they're on
Wine Office Court. They won't be there forever, so do go and have a look because they are brilliant. And the book is available on Amazon and at the City Information Centre. Is that right?
And the Temple Church.
And the Temple Church. So it's been and do, I mean, I don't know what you're doing afterwards, but do chat to Piers because he is a remarkable individual. It's been a real privilege to get to know him and to work.
Wondering whether these meanwhile spaces had yielded successful results, or whether it was very hit and miss.
No, it's been so the Fleet Street Urban Farm was incredibly successful, really successful. We saw huge footfall, very positive feedback. We also opened a Green Skills Construction Hub. And art gallery and artist studios on New Bridge Street. And so that took longer to get off the ground, to get footfall. But now we're seeing really fantastic, that exists, the Green Skills Construction Hub continues and is really successful. We're now seeing young people going through an apprenticeship scheme and straight back into work in the area. And NHS, I think, with their rebuilding schemes and their new hospital schemes, are really looking to adopt the model of training through to jobs all within one sort of place. So that's been really successful. In fact, we're looking to, when that site goes into full construction, we're looking to then move the operation to another redundant or development on pause. So that's been really good. The Urban Farm Project, again, we're doing lots of events and activities. University of Portsmouth are doing analysis into the impact of that project. So that will be published next year. So yes, I mean, I think we want to do more of it. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. We've got a really fragmented ownership. So trying to find out who owns some of these buildings is really, really hard. But generally, once we get to know who owns them, then people are fairly open to meanwhile use. I mean, we are working very closely with the city on looking at rates mitigation and making that easier for landlords. Because we don't want to have all these voids. We want to find creative solutions. If not actual use vinyling, attractive vinyling for the facades, because we don't want Ludgate Hill looking a bit of an eyesore as you walk up to the magnificent St Paul's. So it's an interesting time, and I think it's a challenge that high streets everywhere are facing. Yes, so this year is the UK-Polish Season of Collaboration. So we commissioned Oskar Zięta, a wonderful Polish artist engineer, to do a piece for us. He very quickly, I know you all want to go home, but he fuses metal together and inflates it with air. So he has just done a prototype of an inflatable car, and he's talking to NASA. So we're very lucky, I think, to have his work in the Fleet Street Quarter. And we are putting a planning application to keep it a little bit longer, because a very prestigious London museum wants to add it to its permanent national collection. And I can't tell you which museum that is, but it is very, very, very exciting. And so please do watch this space and follow. The piece is called Whispers, so do follow its journey. I'm hoping to have the Polish astronaut who's coming down from space as we speak to come and talk a little bit here in the area about his journey and about how Oskar Zięta's technology can be used in space. So.
Wow. Have a big hand for Lady Lucy French as well.